Today on Clear Your Clutter Inside and Out, we're talking about distractions. Are you easily distracted? What are 5 areas of diversions that may be slowing you down? What 2 easy action items can you take to eliminate disruptions right now? Learn how to lessen distractions as we continue our month focusing on spring cleaning. Do you control your clutter, or does your clutter control you? On Clear Your Clutter Inside and Out, we'll teach you awareness as well as action steps to create change in your life. Come on, let's get started. I invited Mark to be on the podcast, had a lot of fun with him. He'll tell you about it. He's got his podcast, and I was so happy. Mark's so organized that he had the episode number where I interview on his podcast, so definitely check it out. If he's a productivity guy, we'd hope he'd be organized, right? It's springtime. We can have lots of distractions. And not only when it's springtime, we can have distractions at any time. When I interviewed Mark, I'd literally been 2.5 weeks and we decided to move. And so I talked about the laser focus of that and how we can get that focus and not be distracted. If you find yourself easily distracted, you're going to definitely want to listen to this interview. I also did something fun. I had Mark say his last name. He pronounced it, said it. I'm just going to butcher it. So what I did is I'm just taking the clip of him saying his last name. So anytime we're just going to insert Mark's last name. So if it sounds my voice and a man's voice, that's what's going on. Just thought we'd get a little wild and crazy and have some fun here. Really enjoy Mark. He's got a ton of energy. If I could have 1/8 of his energy, I would be in really great shape. Mark
Struczewski,
also known as Mr. Productivity, is a productivity coach, speaker, and host of the productivity themed show, the Mark
Struczewski
podcast. His obsession is to help people become more productive versions of themselves by teaching them how to conquer the many distractions they encounter every day. Welcome, Mark.
Hey, Julie, I'm thrilled to be here. By the way, before I forget, Julie was on my show. Episode 249 came out on November 5th. Great episode, so go check that out. Maybe you'll link it up in the podcast show notes. It was an incredible episode. So thank you for being on my show, and I'm glad I can be on yours.
I'm excited to have you on, and we are talking about a very interesting topic today, and we're going to get I'm going to share with Mark what's going on in my life and kind of how he views it and all good information for you. So, Mark, what is your definition of a distraction?
Anything that does not keep you focused on what you need to do. Let me clarify that. If you want to summit Mount Everest and you have no idea how to summit Mount Everest, you probably shouldn't be watching stupid cat videos on YouTube. I'm just saying. Okay? If you want to learn how to swim, you probably should be taking swim lessons and that kind of thing. So distractions is anything that takes your eye off the prize. Whatever that prize is for you, it could be a small goal. It could be what Jim Collins calls in Built to Last, a big, hairy, audacious goal, a BHAG. But if it keeps you from doing what needs to get done, it's a distraction. And let's be honest, there are millions of distractions in our day and age today.
There absolutely are. Now, I want my audience to hear this from you because, on my podcast, it's all about clutter. So in your word, your view, how can clutter create distractions in our lives? Or, because I believe inner life reflects outer life, do you believe clutter causes distractions? Discuss that.
Imagine you are in your office and you have your computer and your keyboard and your mouse, and you maybe have a bottle of water, and you have some knickknacks, and you have a bunch of pens, and you have some books you want to get to read. Then you have your cat in the corner, and then you have your phone and your iPad. Imagine how distracting it is you got to keep moving things around. Okay, I need to work on this, so I got to move my keyboard over here, or I'm doing a webinar, so I got to push the monitor back so I have room to write. It's clutter, and it's preventing you from paying attention or working on what needs to get worked on. So you need to make sure that your workspace is clear, That's why I tell people, set yourself up to win, whatever it looks like for you. Now, for me, when I'm in my office, this is where I record podcast interviews. This is where I do my outreach on social media to get clients. But if I want to spend time writing, I go out into my kitchen table. Why? There's no computer out there. And so I will go to different areas to where there's no clutter. If I want to read, I go out in my backyard with my dog and I just have a printed book, not a Kindle, not an iPad, but a printed book. Because the interesting thing, Julie, is on a printed book, you don't get pop-up notifications. It's amazing. It's a technology. I've gone from print to ebooks. Now I'm back to print books because when I'm reading my book, I don't get distracted. So the moral of the story is set your work area up. And work area is a general term here, whether you're working for yourself in the corporate world, or maybe you're at home and you want the kids to have a table where they can work on their homework. Don't have a whole bunch of other knickknacks on the table, just what they need. You're setting them up to win.
Fantastic. So you heard it from someone else, guys. Clutter is a distraction. Now, I'm curious. I'm going to share something that's going on. I'm laughing as you're describing my office because right now we decided literally 2.5 weeks ago to move. And so we're moving within the area. We'd hoped to move back to West Virginia, and at the moment that's not going to happen. And so my life is total chaos. But I'm all about, okay, I know what needs to be done. I am laser focused. I already have someone coming in to paint tomorrow. The floor's on Monday. I did bids, blah, 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 blah. I have probably half the house packed, and this was in a 2.5 week. So I am a laser focus on this. I don't mess around. We've been thinking about moving. So at the end of the fall, I could have started to pack and I was like, oh, I should probably think about this. Truth of the matter is I wasn't motivated. So I kind of needed that kick in the pants, Mark. So do you think that's typical? Do you think we kind of need that fire under our rear end to kind of get going? What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, actually, oddly enough, I just recorded an episode for my podcast, which will be out in a couple of weeks, called Do You Need a Coach? And I've been fascinated by studying high performers. And high performers are high performers because they invest in coaches and for their work area, for their weak areas. And if I look at the society as a whole in the world, the people who are struggling don't have coaches. The people who are very successful have coaches. And I said, isn't that interesting? So I went out and started investing in coaching. I'm a coach and I have a coach. And my life has never been better. And one of the things that coach brings you is the kick in the pants, because you tell them, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. And then the next call comes around. Do you really want to tell someone you're paying a couple $100 a month, or some coaches are $1,000, $5,000 a month? Do you really want to tell them I didn't do anything? Because here's the thing. I, as a coach, or you as a coach, could very easily say, you know what? I don't care if my clients do any work. I don't care. I just want the money. But I'm not like that. If you're not going to do the work, I break the contract, say you're fired. Because there are people who want that spot on my calendar who's going to do the work. So I'm not in the coaching just for the money. I want to make sure you become a more productive version of yourself than you are today. And you need that swift kick in the booty to get you moving. Because even me, Mr. Productivity, some days I just, at the end of the day, I look at my plan. I'm like, man, I didn't do anything today. I mean, there's a lot. I stayed busy, but I didn't do anything to advance me toward my goal. So everybody struggles with this, and you need someone to come along your life and say, hey, did you have a good day today? Why not? Why not? And keep asking why until you feel so bad that you overcompensate and have a great day tomorrow.
I really have to applaud you on that, because I've said before on the podcast, if you're not in a space or frame of mind to do the work, don't hire me. Save your money. And I don't judge it. There's no right or wrong here. You have to be willing to do the work, because if you don't take any action, your life is never going to change.
Yeah. And I have a current coach right now, which is kind of funny, because when we had our first call, I gave them, I'm a big fan of simplicity, because I know if I give my client 30 things to do, they're not going to start.
Exactly.
So I said, do this one thing. And he says, well, that seems kind of simple. I'm like, well, are you doing it now? He goes, touche. Okay. So let's get the momentum going. Let's start with the simple thing. Start doing that 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4 days. Now we developed the habit. Now we'll work on the next thing. I have had coaches in my past who just vomit all this knowledge on me, which is all great knowledge. But I'm like, okay, what do I do now?
True.
But if you
Exactly.
gave me one thing, okay, I can do this one thing. So I'm a big fan of simplicity when I coach.
I think that's very important. Well, that's what clearing your clutter is all about. It's about simplifying your life.
Mhm.
Now, how do we lessen distractions, right? Because we're going to, you brought up a moment ago about social media. I think you did. I'm a little,
We'll
little,
pretend that we did.
well, pretend that we did. I think because I find social media so distracting. So, how do we lessen that? And social media is just one example. There are distractions all around it. It is a beautiful day here in Raleigh. Should not be this hot. It's 72 today. I could just sit outside all day. So how do we lessen distractions?
There's a wise person said many years ago, know thyself. You have to know, first of all, what is distracting you. Now, you mentioned social media. On my iPhone, I've got LinkedIn, I've got Twitter,
Mhm.
I've got Instagram, I've got Snapchat. Guess what? They don't tempt me. But if they tempt you, first of all, turn off almost every notification you have, unless A, you're disciplined enough to ignore it,
Mhm.
or you really need the notifications. Like, I'm a big basketball fan, so I have my NBA app turned on, but it only goes off at night when I'm not working because I don't
Okay.
get to watch most of my
Mhm.
games. So I'm very intentional. But if that's not you, maybe you need to put your social media apps in a folder on a screen far, far away. Now, is this going to stop you? No, but it's going to put a little barrier before you go on the social media. What I tell my clients, what I tell audience members is it's all about compartmentalization. What do I mean by that?
Mm.
Well, you say, okay, I'm going to spend 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour on social media. That's all you do is social media. You don't text and check email and social media, try to read a book, try to watch TV. You just get on social media, whatever that looks like for you. And when the time is up, you stop being on social media. You don't stay for 62 minutes or 65 minutes. You get off social media. So I schedule time to check email
Mhm.
because here's the reality is I'm not a brain surgeon. There is nobody that's going to email me that they need an answer in like 5 seconds.
Right.
So I check email during my working hours. Now, my working hour is a little weird. I don't start work until 1 o'clock in the afternoon Central Time because my wife works at 1 o'clock in the afternoon Central Time. So our days are kind of flipped because we watch TV in the morning because we can't
Ah.
watch at night because she's working. But my hours start at 1 o'clock. So I can freely check email, social media, whatever I want to do until she leaves to work at 12:30. Then I have to go by when it's scheduled. If it's not scheduled, I don't do it. And so Brendan Burchard talks in his book about his high performance habits book, which I highly recommend to everybody. No affiliate link. I just love the book. He talks about prolific quality output. And basically what that means is, are you working on things that are going to advance you towards your goal? And
Mm.
I'm using it as a filter. So when someone
Mhm.
says, hey, can we go out to lunch for a couple hours and just chit chat? I'm like, okay, you're not Tony Robbins. You're not a big influencer. No, because I don't know who you are, but you're going to waste my time. And so on my Apple Watch, I actually do something else that Brendan suggests. It's called triggers. And so 3 times a day, an alarm pops up and it says PQO question mark for prolific quality output. And it's
Ah.
just a reminder saying, okay, are you working on what matters? Or are you wasting time? And I can tell you, since I implemented this in my life, I am more laser focused now because if you work on the stuff that truly needs to get done, guess what? You don't have to work as hard or as long because you're focused. Like you said, the word focus, you
Mhm.
focus on what really needs to get done really, really hard. And then guess what? You get the work done, you can have fun. But what a lot of people are doing, they're trying to do 16 million things at once. And at the end of the day, they go, I'm so tired, but what did I do?
Mhm. Now I have a question that's very interesting. I've heard of Brendan Bouchard, haven't read anything by him about the PQO on your watch. Could it be, because I think for me, I definitely have a holistic view of everything, work wise, personal wise. Like, would a PQO be, have you been drinking your water or getting up and stretching? Because to me, that kind of helps with for me it helps support me in being productive because I'm hydrated. I'm making sure I'm not at my desk and I'm moving, or am I getting away from, does that make sense what I'm asking?
It does. What I do is interesting you say that. I also have other alarms on my Apple Watch. And if you don't have an Apple Watch, No excuses. You can use your phone. Okay. No excuses. I also have an alarm coming out 3 times a day, and it's got one word: patient, because I'm not very patient. And it's just one word. I look at my watch. Oh, no, I'm kind of impatient right now. It always seems to go off, even though it's preset. It always seems to go off at the right time. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
being patient. Another trigger I have on my watch that I got an idea from Brendan is bring the joy. And so 3 times
Oh,
a day, the alarm pops up and says, bring the joy. Am I being joyful? Or am I being a grump on Julie's podcast? No, I want to bring the joy. Life is too short. I want to bring the joy.
I like that. I like that. Good. I'm glad that you included that because I believe that we can't, you have to look at a holistic view because how you're feeling personally is going to affect how you work with clients. It's going to
Yep.
affect your relationship with your wife, your kids, or whoever it is that's going on. In that sense, that stuff I don't believe can be compartmentalized. I am using that in a different way than you did, but I just think that that's really important.
You do need to compartmentalize, but you also need to take breaks. And one of the things, and it sounds like a Brendan Burchard commercial, but I've learned a lot from the man. One of the things he said, we all say take breaks. Everyone knows you should take breaks. I mean, that's adult, right? But he said something different. You need to close your eyes on your break for a couple minutes because our eyes are stimulated. That's what I'm looking for. They're always looking at things and processing information, looking at this. But if you close your eyes, now your eyes can go, okay, I can take a break. And when he said that, I'm like, I never thought of that before. Our eyes are constantly working,
Mm-hmm.
looking and processing things. And we need not just to take a mental break, but when you go to the break room or you walk outside and for 5 minutes, close your eyes for a couple minutes. Give your eyes and your brain the break. And I've been doing that. It's like just 1 or 2 minutes. It increases my energy incredibly.
I love that. I think that's really important because most of us, the majority of us are visual learners. So that is definitely the first way we learn and take in information. So to be able to, because I'm a fan of just along with that, closing your eyes and just sitting still. When was the last time you sat still? I
Yep.
mean, just did some deep breathing
We
instead
we
of what
grab
am I
we
doing
grab
for
this
dinner?
when we're sitting still. We're grabbing this, and we're like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm still. I'm on Facebook or whatever. No, that's not what sitting still means. Sitting still means you don't do anything. You don't think about dinner. You don't think about what you're
Right.
gonna do this weekend. You just be quiet because when you are quiet for a couple seconds, your brain's going because you've been working it. So we take our eyes and our brain for granted,
Mm-hmm.
but they're
Mm-hmm.
working hard all the time. And if you don't take care of yourself mentally like that, you're going to start feeling a drag in the afternoon or and toward the end of the day because you haven't given your body a break. But here's the thing: the brain doesn't need like a 1 hour break like the body does. The brain only needs a 5 or 15 minute break where it can just close your eyes and just don't think about anything and just relax in silence. And I think we have gotten away. I think the only time we see silence now is when the power goes out, which is kind of sad.
Mm-hmm. I'd agree with that. Now, so it's sad though. And have you lost a client because you couldn't find the business card for the person who is interested in your services? Did you double book speaking engagements and now have to figure out which one to cancel? Did you lose business because you suddenly had more clients and weren't able to manage it all? Julie Coraccio offers business coaching and focuses on podcasting, professional organizers, and solopreneurs and entrepreneurs. Visit reawakenyourbrilliance.com to learn more. You know, when you held up your phone a moment ago, and I know you did that, this popped into my head. Why do you think, because my husband and I always laugh when we go out to dinner, because we'll kind of, my husband never misses anything. I can miss some things, but we'll observe and be like, oh, do you think they're on a first date? Or, are they, you know, and when you have two people or more who are on their phone and there are people right in front of them and we're lining up for the perfect Instagram picture or whatever. And to me, that's a huge, colossal distraction. So what do you think's going on with that?
I have to laugh because my wife and I go out to lunch every Friday because she works Sunday through Thursday and we go out to lunch on Friday. And we go and sit down and, I start eating my food. My wife is a zero carber. So when I go out
Mm.
to dinner, she just gets a Diet Coke and I just eat my meal. And I'm not on my phone. And I'm like, can we just have a lunch with us? And now, can you imagine being married to Mr. Productivity? I'm like, can you put the phone down? I mean, really? I mean, I'm right here. I mean, can't we just spend an hour? Which is ironic because you always spend more time with me. But I'm like, okay, but you're always on your phone or your iPad. I mean, I'm right here. So I'm trying to break the habit. If I'm with someone and we're on a conversation, you pick up the phone, I stop talking. And they're like, well, go ahead. No, finish what you're doing. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
And it's really weird because people going, what are you doing that for? I'm like, okay, do you want to talk to me? Because I want to look in your eyes. It's kind of funny because I'm 53. I'm going back to old school. We need to talk to each other eyeball to eyeball.
I
And
agree.
so if someone's on their phone, I won't talk. Or I'll say something stupid like, yeah, I'm going to go murder your mother. And it's like, wait, what'd you say? Oh, now I got your attention. Because the world we've gotten to the point where we're afraid we're going to miss out. It's called FOMO, the fear of missing out. We're afraid. Listen, the leader of your country is not going to call you. Okay. The leader of your country is not going to send you a DM on Twitter or on Facebook or Instagram. Okay. 99.99% of the people are not that important in the world scheme of things. In your family, you are, but in the world, nobody cares about this podcast. I mean, our listeners do, we do, but I guarantee you the leaders in North Korea don't care about our podcast. And I think we're making ourselves more important. And so we always have to keep checking in and refreshing Twitter over and over and over again. It's the same news cycle that happens over and over and over again. We just need to disconnect from that. I'm not saying don't watch the news or don't check on the Twitter, but don't become obsessed with it.
I think, yeah, one of my big goals is for this year is my health. And so obviously looking at that holistically, started lifting weights again. How much water am I drinking? But I've unplugged. And so, as you know, you have to have, for a business Facebook page, you have to have a personal page. You
Yes.
can't get around that. So I still I do Hootsuite so that there's something being published. And if someone asks a question or post, I always respond. But I have posted a lot less personally because not only for me, it's besides being a time waster and a distraction, it just gets me upset the more I'm on because I feel like it's just people have gone crazy. And so same with the news. So I'm taking a big step back and I do puzzles on my phone. That's one thing I do because I have a little thing that says every week, this is the amount of screen time that
Yep.
you've used. So I keep trying to reduce that number, but I'm like, okay, puzzles don't count because that's relaxing. It's good brain juice and all that stuff. But it has become, it's just kind of morphed into a bigger distraction in a sense because I get upset now. Before you'd be like, oh, it's wasting time. Now I find myself getting irritated.
Yeah. What's interesting about that is, do you have an iPhone?
I have an iPad.
Okay, so that's where the screen time. That's screen time. Those of you who don't know, iOS 12 brought screen time, which actually tells you how much you're unlocking your phone, how much time you're in email, how
Oh,
much time you're in social media, and it's interesting because even when people see that data, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I spent how many hours on Instagram?" But it doesn't change anything. But it's interesting what you said about Facebook. I too am on Facebook. I have no friends. Um, I don't even post on. I used to have a fan page, but it never took off. My big thing is LinkedIn, and so what I do is I'm only on Facebook because there's a couple groups I want to be in, and I never post on my Facebook page. And so it's interesting you say that, but I'm even trying to pull away. I may post once or twice on LinkedIn, and the same thing goes on Twitter. I'm sorry. I post on LinkedIn. I record a video every day on LinkedIn. I make it 2 minutes and 20 seconds or less because that's how I can put the same video on Twitter. And so get two shots on there. And I'm very natural, a gifted speaker. So I don't know about gifted, but I'm a very natural speaker. I could just, like, people say, how do you just start to filming? And I just do it. I don't know how I do it. And so I take it and put that on Twitter. And then I do spend maybe 5 minutes a day on Instagram and Snapchat just to keep my brand out there. But it goes back to the PQO. Is this advancing my business? Now, yes, on LinkedIn it is, but I need to be having calls with prospective buyers, not watching a whole bunch of stories on Instagram, because that's not going to further me toward my goal. And it goes back to what I said in the very beginning. It comes back to discipline. It comes back to your intentionality.
Mm-hmm.
Are you able to just spend a few minutes on Instagram, or will you knowingly waste 4 hours? You have to know yourself to know how addicted these things are. I know people who they got to be on, they wake up, it's like a cigarette. First thing in the morning, they got to check social media.
Mm-hmm.
And they got every hour, it's like, are you serious? I mean, what are you looking at? And then they're just scrolling through the timeline. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you need to stop that. And they go, well, how do you do it? I'm like, because if I'm scrolling through Instagram, I'm not making money.
Right.
And I said, so imagine every time you spend an hour on Instagram and you, let's say your ideal hourly rate's $250. We'll just pick that number out of thin air. And you spend an hour on Instagram, you just wasted $250. Sign a high dollar amount to that. And you're like, oh my gosh, because all these hours start adding up. And like, oh, I need Instagram or I need Twitter or LinkedIn to grow my business. Yeah, you do. But are you on there producing content and adding valuable comments, or are you there just scrolling? There is a difference.
That's a great distinction. That's a great distinction. I laugh because we are a cat family and we have 3 cats. And I'm like, how can I look at other cats? And I was like, what are you looking at cats for when you have your cats? Now, if you're a cat owner, like I have one cat, they're all very particular about when they snuggle and how they
Yep.
do it. So I have zero control over that. But I was like, okay, like let's get, that Antonio likes to snuggle at this table, and Joey, you have to be in the bed in this position, and Thithi's, anyway. So let's do more of that instead of looking at the cat pictures. But this brings up my next question. Do you feel at any point or time or situation that distractions can be good?
Yes. And for example, let's say you're not having a good day. I mean, your day is like pushing a rope. You're just like, oh man, no matter how much I try, I'm not getting any traction. And then Susie comes by your office and says, hey, you want to see pictures of my new nephew's baby? Well, you see the picture, ooh, how cute. And it may be enough to do a pattern interrupt. Now that little engagement gets you go, oh, wow, I'm looking at this piece of paper, totally different now. Now all of a sudden, so some distractions can be a good thing. I can also think of a situation, let's say something bad happens. I don't know why I laughed there, but let's say you get a speeding ticket and the police officer, well, they don't write tickets anymore. They do everything on the computer, but you're like really nervous. So as the police officer drives away and you're still parked there, maybe you go look at some funny videos to calm you down before you drive. So distractions can be a good thing as long as you're controlling them. Like my wife and I have an 8-month-old puppy. She's not a puppy like a little puppy. She's a big puppy. And she has known, because my wife is at work right now, she knows I'm in here and talking to this fancy thing, that she curls up and goes to sleep. However, if one of the cats walks by the office door, she's off like a shot. And I'm like, okay, please, cats, just sleep during the day, especially during my podcast. But like stuff like that happens. But I do think that distractions can be a good thing as long as you're maintaining control over them and long as you're doing them intentionally. Now, I don't mean like I'm going to plan Susie Q to walk by my desk, but give yourself permission. Or if a neighbor comes over, like if a neighbor knocked on my door right now and says, I baked you some fresh chocolate chip cookies. Julie, I'm sorry, I had to go into the door. Even though there's a sign on my door saying I'm recording a live podcast, I love food. So, I mean, that's never happened before in my neighborhood, but if it did, I'd have to go into the door.
I hear you on that. It's too bad you aren't close because I make great chocolate chip cookies. I love the give yourself permission and that you control it, because we had a lot of loss happen last year and I did a lot of grieving. And so for me, the distractions were absolutely for my mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I knew, okay, you're going to grieve. I knew it's going to be a time period. It's intense now. It's going to lessen. We know that there's that light at the end of the tunnel. Right now, I can't see it, but I know that it's out there. And I gave myself permission and I didn't beat myself up, but it subsided.
Yes.
And I know that it would have been worse for me to try to push it away or to try not to distract myself. But I think I love give yourself permission. I think that is such a huge, great piece of advice for so many things in life.
I'm glad you found value in that.
Oh, no, we're getting lots of good stuff. Now, let me ask you, because when this podcast airs, of course, it depends on where you live, but it's going to be springtime for most of North America and everyone above the equator. So I think I love this example because, it's like, oh, the fresh air and the smell of earth. That's a huge distraction. So when people are wanting to go outside, you say, just take that 5 minutes and do it and kind of get your fill. And you think that that'll help lessen the distraction as you're gazing out the window, looking at the beautiful day.
Yes. Well, I actually think people should go outside year
Mm-hmm.
round. Okay. They have these things called winter coats and hats and gloves. And smokers have to go outside to smoke.
That's true.
So go outside and you breathe in that cold air. You're not going to spend an hour outside, but you can last 5 minutes outside. And I know people, when we had the polar vortex in late January 2019, people still went outside for 5 minutes. Okay, 20 below. You can stand, you dress warmly, and you can go outside and breathe in the fresh air. You need to go outside without your phone, or at least mute it in your pocket. Maybe not talk to anybody. Don't listen to your music. Just be quiet. And maybe at lunch, here's a novel idea. Instead of going to lunch with your friends and eating all the high carby, high processed foods, maybe pack a sandwich and go for a small walk to a park and just sit there and watch the people walk by. Don't listen to news. Don't check social media. Just be present. And I think so many of us today are like, we're not living in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, what's going to happen an hour from now? What's going to happen tonight? What's on TV tonight? Who's playing this weekend? No, it's not here yet. Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm.
We're not children where we can't wait for something. I mean, let's live in this moment. Right now, I am on this podcast with you. I'm not even thinking about what comes next. I don't even know what comes next. I have no idea. Because what happens if, I don't know if you believe in this or not, what if God just says, oh, you're done, flip the switch, we're all done. And maybe there is no next hour. So I got to live right now, because right now is the only thing I have. And so many people, and it goes across generations.
Mm-hmm.
People think that, oh, when I get to be this age or when I graduate high
Mm-hmm.
school, I'm like, dude, no, you have to, this is all you got right here. Are you being the best person you can be right now, right here? Because you're not promised the next minute. You assume you're going to graduate college, find a love, get married, have kids, get the white picket fence house, but maybe you won't. How many people get killed? They weren't out there. They didn't say, on my planner today, I get killed. No one does that. You don't think about that. You don't think about, oh, I think today's the day I find out I have cancer. You don't know. So my point is, I don't mean to be morbid, but live in the moment you're living right now, because this is all you have.
I'm so happy you brought that up. One of the focuses that I've started this year was helping people getting organized for death. But when you accept that you're going to die and when you're prepared for death, you can live your life fully.
Yep.
And that you're saying in a different way. And I think that's so important for people to hear. Now, is there anything that you want to share that I haven't asked you about distractions that you think it's important for our listeners and viewers to know?
My 5 distractions that I talk about all the time: social media, email, people, entertainment, and yourself. And I work with my clients. I teach people on my podcast how to attack these 5 areas. And the underlying theme on all these distractions, these are just 5 of the big ones. I know there's other ones, but I can't say here are the 4,822 distractions you deal with, is intentionality. How intentional are you going to be at punching these distractions in the face? Okay. It's not my job. I can help you as a productivity coach. It's not your mama's job. It's not your coach's job. It's not your boss's job. It's your job. You need to say, okay, I'm sick and tired of being distracted. I'm going to do something about it. Like, I gift everyone a complimentary strategy session. You can just go to mrproductivity.com and get it. It's not a sales call. A lot of people say, oh, you're going to try to sell your coaching services. No, I want to help you. Now, it's not a 2-hour call. It's 15 minutes, but I will give you some solid value. You can listen to my podcast. You can follow me on social media. But you have got to be intentional about saying, I'm done being distracted. I want to be more productive. Because until you get to that point, no coaching is going to matter. No podcast is going to matter. No books read is going to matter. You have to make the decision up here. Then you find out what to do next.
Fantastic. That's a great lead into my final question for you.
The
And
final question.
the final question. The
I used to be a
final
radio
question.
DJ, so like my wife calls me Johnny Jocko. So
Oh, that's
Johnny
funny.
Jocko, spinning the
You,
hits.
you do. You have that radio voice. I'm all about taking action. So at the end of every time I do a podcast, I list to take action. So however many you want, what can people watching and listening, how can they take actions? What would you say to them? Overwhelmed by clutter? Feel stuck? Would you like to feel energized and excited? Are you not sure what direction to go? Julie Coraccio offers lifestyle coaching to people from all walks of life who know something needs to change, but they aren't sure where to start. Visit reawakenyourbrilliance.com to learn how Julie can support you with life coaching.
The first thing I want you to do, if you haven't done this at all or in a long time, I want you to take out every single electronic device you own, phone, tablet, iPad, whatever. And I want you to go look at your notifications, and I want you to do what I call a notification cleanse. Go scorched earth. You don't need to be alerted every time there's a push alert. So you go through there and go, okay, do I really need to be alerted? Now, I use LinkedIn heavily, so LinkedIn's got a really cool thing that you can actually manage your notifications. So for me, the only notification I get from LinkedIn is when somebody sends me a message. That's it.
But I've got to do.
Yeah.
I
You
need
go
to
into
do that.
because if you have them all on, every time someone posts, tags you, whatever, you get tagged. So go through your notifications. Do you need to be alerted every time someone tags you in Facebook? No. I mean, I don't know. But I would say no. Go through all your notifications. Now, I have a confession to make for you, Julie. I love weather apps. Drives my wife bonkers. I found a new weather app. And like I've got Dark Sky, I've got Weather Underground. I don't have the Weather Channel because I got in trouble with privacy concerns. But I only have notifications turned on for Dark Sky. I think they're the most accurate. So the number one thing I would tell people to do, go through our notifications, go scorched earth, and really think, do I really need this notification? Because here's the thing. If you turn off Facebook notifications and you go into the app, they're still there. They're just not distracting you by pushing them to your phone. So everything's still going to be there. Turn off email notifications. Oh my goodness. People, I'll be in public with people. Ding, 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 ding. Was it a game? Oh no, I'm getting emails.
Yeah.
You can turn that off. Like, why would I want to turn it off? I may miss something. No, when you go in your inbox, they're all there. And so when you turn off the notifications, guess what? Your phone doesn't go ding, 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 ding. I can probably have my phone on. I mean, it's muted right now, and it probably wouldn't go off because I have almost every notification turned off. So that's the number one thing. Number two, staying on the topic of social media, is take all those apps. If you're distracted. Now, if you can leave Facebook on your home screen, it doesn't bother you. This may not apply to you. Move it to a folder and then move that folder far, far away from the home screen. Just put a little barrier. Now, if that's still too tempting, delete the app. What did he just say? What? Did he just say delete the Facebook app? Yes. I didn't say delete your account, although you can. But if you delete the app, guess what you have to do? You have to open the browser, type in Facebook, log in. It's another barrier.
Mm-hmm.
Once you break the habit, then you can start putting the apps back on your phone. We want to get you in the new habit. So if you just take those two things, I think that's enough because remember, I don't want to overload your listeners and viewers. I want them to do that. And then reach out to me. Just go to MrProductivity.com. That's Mr. spelled out. MrProductivity.com. Find me on social media. If you scroll to the bottom of the page, there's all my social media links, or you can send me a message. You can send me a carrier pigeon if you want. I probably won't get it. But tell me, I did it. Oh my gosh, my life changed. No one has ever said to me, Julie, I did it. I turned off all notifications and my life got worse. No one's ever done that to me. They've always said, oh my gosh, my phone never goes off anymore. I can actually pay attention to what's going around with me. So it's life changing. But people feel really scared when they do it. They're like, what if I miss something? Not that important. I'm not that important, okay? Just take a breath. Everything's still there. You're just not going to be distracted with the push notifications.
I love that. Great advice from that. So again, let people know. And your podcast, the link is on your website, right?
Yes, it is called the Mark Struczewski Podcast. Now, I have over 300 episodes. So if you go to any podcast player Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, whatever. You type in the space, Mark with a K, space, STR, it'll pop up. But you can also go to MrProductivity.com. Everything is at my website. Now, I will give you I'll be completely transparent here. Mr. Productivity is a redirect because most people can't spell Mark Struczewski. I don't understand why. When I was 3 years old, I thought my nursery school teacher was stupid because I could spell Struczewski and she couldn't, but I digress. But if you go to MrProductivity.com, it redirects you to my website, and everything you need to know about me, probably more you want to know, is all at the website.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. I think that's great advice, and it's too bad you're not up here. You could help me do some packing and do that, and because that's
only if you pay me with chocolate chip cookies.
Oh, you know what? I would gladly bribe you with that because it will be worth it for me to bake. We're making good progress, but I know I don't have a lot because I practice what I preach, but I'm like, wow. So, I mean, it's good. We're literally downsizing. So it's been a great experiment with that. Mark, I want to thank you for having you on the show today and giving our listeners and readers lots of good value.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
On next month's episode, we're talking about finding your joy. Go out, clear your clutter to create the life you choose, deserve, and desire. When you clear your clutter, you can share your gifts with the world. Sign up for our free newsletter at reawakenyourbrilliance.com. If you've enjoyed Clear Your Clutter Inside and Out, please rate, review, and share us.